Okay, hi there. My name is Darren Sharp. I'm a research fellow at the Monash Sustainable Development Institute in Melbourne. I'd like to welcome my Monash University colleagues, Dr. Sarah Goodwin and Dr. Misita Anwar from the Human-Centered Computer Department in the Faculty of Information Technology. And I'd also like to acknowledge our colleague, Professor Lynn Bartram from Simon Fraser University in Canada. Thank you so much for joining our Data for Policy 2020 presentation on submission number 67, titled Engaging Citizens in Data Governance in Net Zero Precincts. Before we begin, I wish to acknowledge the people of the Kulin Nations on whose land we are gathered today. I pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. To kick things off, I'd like to start with a bit of an introduction to set the scene. So, as we're all aware, data has been a prominent theme in urban scholarship, exploring topics related to multi-stakeholder governance, community engagement and data rights in the context of smart city strategy. Urban living labs have also emerged as social learning environments that enable diverse stakeholders to collaboratively trial new modes of experimentation to support sustainability transitions. Questions remain, though, about whether cities are actually equipped and capable of inclusive community engagement in relation to data governance in ways that will promote diversity, safeguard citizens' privacy, and accelerate sustainable urban transformation. Our study seeks to engage what we're calling precinct citizens, including residents, local employees, as well as university staff and students, through a participatory engagement process to develop recommendations for best practice on community engagement in data governance in the context of the Monash Net Zero Precincts program. So to give you an understanding of what we're talking about here, our empirical research is situated within the Net Zero Precincts program, which is part of the Net Zero Initiative at Monash University in Melbourne, Australia. So the Net Zero Initiative is a $135 million program that's transforming Monash's 4 Australian campuses to become net zero carbon emissions by the year 2030. Our study is investigating the prospects for citizen engagement in data governance at precinct scale as the Net Zero Initiative moves from its origins as a major capital investment in renewable energy infrastructure to broaden its focus and incorporate research and education activities through the establishment of an urban living lab. So our main research questions are, firstly, what are community perceptions, practices, expectations and uncertainties in relation to data governance? And secondly, what are the implications for empowering community engagement in data governance at precinct scale? Our methodology uses human-centered design to generate community-led ideas by engaging with a diversity of precinct citizens. And essentially, this participatory engagement process is a way to enable stakeholders to generate, test and refine ideas using emergent collaboration and rapid prototyping. So our research is situated at the intersection of a number of different fields, including transition studies, urban scholarship, and user-centered data science. So let's turn now to a brief overview of some key challenges on data governance that we observe from the literature. So we know that data governance is an emerging topic of inquiry concerned with how a range of actors can successfully manage data assets. And while there is no agreed definition in the literature, we find Ladley's conceptualization useful, which you can see here, that data governance is the organisation and implementation of policies, procedures, structure, roles and responsibilities, which outline and enforce rules of engagement, decision rights and accountabilities for the effective management of information assets. So data governance, though, raises a number of social and ethical challenges for the community and also for institutions. Data's role in society has been met with scepticism and uncertainty, particularly from the community's perspective, on issues related to digital data collection, use and ownership. Critical data studies scholars have pointed towards the instrumental use of smart technologies and algorithms as an emerging mode of what they call algocratic governance, which uses tracking, surveillance, and social profiling to monetize experience, to influence behaviour, and also intensify socioeconomic discrimination. So these tensions highlight the need to balance individual and community autonomy in the use of data with the extractive nature of commercial business models, and also the drive for efficiency that we see in public services. The literature surfaces a number of social, ethical, and technological challenges in operationalising community engagement in data governance, more from an organisational and institutional perspective. These relates to tensions between democratisation and control, privacy and data rights, and top-down and bottom-up governance logics in a variety of institutional settings. Organisations face a variety of challenges related to operationalising data governance. The governance of urban data can reproduce power asymmetries between institutions controlling urban data and other social groups and organisations that are excluded from decision-making. Local governments have also encountered various difficulties in carrying out data-driven social policy. In the Netherlands, for example, municipalities were found to have used data to support the digital welfare state, but in the process experienced problems with data quality, privacy protections, citizen engagement issues, and also democratic legitimacy. The Commons is a useful organising principle for understanding how communities can participate in data governance through multi-level approaches. Ostrom's work on governing common pool resources demonstrates how communities co-manage shared natural resources. Knowledge commons like Wikipedia and the free and open source software movement use polycentric governance to manage intangible shared resources. Recent projects are experimenting with commons-based approaches to data governance in the interest of strengthening technological sovereignty and protecting digital data rights. The Decode project, for example, is trialling data commons approaches that bridge this gap between personal control and public benefit through pilots in Amsterdam and in Barcelona. Data commons encourage community participation in data governance through personal and collective control via new institutional arrangements for democratic decision-making. I'll now hand over to my colleague, Sarah.
Hi. Our project methodology has 3 phases: the scoping engagement strategy, the engagement and co-design process itself, and finally the translation through to open dissemination of the results. Our research methods include scoping of best practices for community engagement through incorporating citizens in data governance, and our primary data is being collected through surveys, co-design group workshops, and interviews. To date, we have completed all the boxes with solid outlines, and we've run a series of 2 participatory engagement workshops to create inclusive learning environments for our precinct citizens to discuss opportunities for mutual value creation and concerns about data collection, use, and ownership, and start to understand the common needs. These workshops took place in July 2020 during COVID-19 pandemic, which necessitated the use of online platforms. So Zoom was used as the main communication platform to deliver the presentations and co-host all the breakout rooms. And we also used Miro as a real-time collaboration tool, which allowed us to engage and collaborate with an online whiteboard environment for post-it notes, brainstorming, and prototyping activities. All these workshop activities were audio and visually recorded to allow us to analyze the results. We're currently in the process of coding these results and arranging one-on-one interviews with a cross-section of the participants to gather further in-depth interviews from all our participants. Using these and the coded results from our workshops, we will develop draft guidelines, which we will send out to our participants for feedback. We'll also make these available more widely for our precinct partners more widely. We will iterate on these and continue to create these until we are happy with the guidelines for best practice, and we'll disseminate these through an open resource online, and we'll encourage further participation and collaboration through creating a community of best practice. And now pass on to Misita to explain what we've done so far.
Thanks, Sarah. Hi. So in the first workshop, we introduced data as a critical asset in contemporary society and data governance as a process for managing value generations, control, and collective good. We split participants into small group breakout groups with at least one of us, the facilitator, and were invited to respond to a series of questions related to data use and data governance. Responses were then added to post-it notes and placed on the virtual whiteboards. The whiteboard structure was developed to address the main research question and divided into 4 quadrants. Number 1 is the perception quadrants, what we think is happening. Second is practices, what we currently do. Third, expectations, how things should be. And fourth, uncertainties, what we want to know. So, and then the breakout groups went through 2 iterations of focus questions and answer sessions while adding post-it notes to the whiteboards, with facilitators reporting key insights back to the group as a whole. And then we developed our analysis of preliminary results from the workshop. We use qualitative coding. Results, we code them and sort them within the Miro collaboration platform. Active categorization, we use active categorization by drawing on insights from transition studies and urban experimentation to support data analysis and theory building. Our coding and data analysis was informed mainly by Sangers et al. Conceptualizations of smart city experimentation in the context of urban living labs, which provide useful analytic division between these 3 categories. And they are material arena, which include locations, physical infrastructures, and technologies. Also the discursive arena, which describe vision, images, and narratives of transformation. And the third one is the institutional arena, which reveals how governance arrangements are constituted between public, private knowledge, as well as community actors. So this is the result, sort of preliminary results of workshop 1 of problem identification. As you can see, the first cluster of ideas, which sort of map to Sanger's material arena, evolve around citizens' data. Participants identified data interpretation and literacy as expectation of data governance, access and interfaces, which the way that it was articulated in the workshop includes actual access to data, different levels of access, better indices, as well as data discovery. Around the second cluster, the ideas resonate with discursive arena, and this includes citizens' value of like diversity, equity, and inclusion, democratization and decentralization, trust and transparency, and quality and integrity. In the third cluster, these ideas map well with institutional arena, and this relates to the need to provide space for community consultation and communications, defining clear roles and responsibilities, as well as strengthening individual and community agency over data creation and use. We then use this as the basis to develop the themes for use case scenarios that would lead to opportunity statements in the subsequent workshop. So in the second workshop, again, we use human-centered design to generate community-led ideas through the development of basic data governance prototypes. So human-centered design is a participatory engagement process to enable stakeholders to generate, test, and refine ideas using emergent collaboration. Here in the second workshop, participants were introduced first to design challenge via 3 different use case scenarios told as stories. These stories were then generalized into how might we questions, also known as opportunity statements. Then the workshop group was split into 4 breakout teams for a short brainstorming session, led again at least by one of us as facilitator, and were asked to come up with as many ideas as possible related to the opportunity statements. The final stage of the workshop involved a rapid prototype session where a team selected top ideas from the brainstorming process and developed this into a tangible idea for either a process, a service, program, vision, tool, or resource. Each team then delivered a short presentation on their prototype back to the group as a whole. So this is the some of the summary of the 4 prototypes resulting from the co-design workshop. The first team developed a method of building public awareness and ways of community communication around energy use, whereas the second team were envisaging a citizens' data dashboard to support engagement with and around data. While the third group worked on a vision for Precinct Data Project community-based plan, the fourth team came up with a data cafe, similar to a repair cafe, where a community can share, compare, and learn from each other's data. So back to Sarah for emerging insights.
So the results from our ongoing empirical data collection reveal a number of tentative insights. The methodology we used differs from and expands beyond the conventional focus groups approach used in most social science research. Our preliminary methods have to date surfaced a diverse set of rich information about community perceptions, practices, expectations, and uncertainties related to data governance. The multiplicity of ideas and perspectives generated by a small group of stakeholders, our precinct citizens, suggests that pluralism is an important consideration in the design of data governance frameworks and that integrate with community engagement into governance practices or processes. The workshop discussions revealed a consensus on the need to strengthen citizens' agency through data literacy and creation of deliberate spaces for community consultation and feedback are critical to data governance design. At the same time, concerns about security and privacy and the general lack of transparency in handling citizens' data points to the importance of trust and ethics in the implication of data governance stewardship practices. So our participating methodology provides a transferable approach for other urban policy scholars and practitioners to trial and develop. Modes of participatory engagement like human-centered design can enable citizens to co-design basic prototypes directly relevant to a specific data community and governance context. Fostering community agency in data governance in the early stages of planning and generate stakeholder buy-in and strengthen the social license to operate. The preliminary results of our research suggest that precinct citizens can play a role in identifying useful data sets and standards, shaping values and principles, and participate in decision-making processes. Given our domain testbed, the Net Zero Precincts program is in its pre-implementation phase, we intend to develop these ideas into future planning for community engagement in data governance in the precinct in future. And I'll pass back to Darren for our directions for future research.
Thank you so much, Sarah. So the next phase of our research will involve ongoing analysis of results and the possibility for one-on-one or group interviews with participants to enable more depth-based collaboration of the challenges and also the opportunities identified in the workshops. We'll then use the data collected and analysed to develop draft citizen-focused recommendations for best practice in data governance in the precincts with a view to seek feedback and refinement from stakeholders. We'll also explore the development of a community of practice to support ongoing discussion of these issues and foster greater interaction between interdisciplinary scholars and practitioners working in urban policy, transition studies and data science. Directions for future research include investigating how institutional arrangements can become more responsive to community engagement through multi-stakeholder and polycentric modes of governance, along with the efficacy of data commons models and other approaches to democratising participation. Finally, we have additional questions about how community engagement can support net zero transformation at precinct scale in the context of urban infrastructural systems. Further research questions could explore how specific processes of community engagement in data governance could accelerate decarbonisation goals. We thank you so much for listening to our presentation, and we welcome your feedback and would like to hear from other scholars and practitioners working on related topics related to data governance. And we're very much looking forward to meeting you at the Data for Policy 2020 conference. Thank you so much.
Thank you.